Throughout our life, many of us will be tested by traumatic life experiences. These midlife jolts can either propel us or they can derail us, taking us back to square one. These jolts can create a lifetime of purpose, creating new relationships, new careers, new worldviews, and a clarity of your mission on earth. That jolt came to me on January 15, 2009, when I survived the plane crash known as Miracle on the Hudson. For the next 35 minutes, I'm going to share with you how by being resourceful and employing your own personal leadership skills, you don't only survive, but you can thrive, and you don't need a plane crash to find your purpose. But before I start, I want to ask everybody, have you seen that movie, Sully? Yeah. Well, I thought Clint Eastwood did a tremendous job, and Tom Hanks was amazing. But one thing the passengers knew then, but we all know now, is this. That movie was not about the plane crash. It was about the amazing journey of the captain, and the crew did a fabulous job that day, and I'll be forever grateful. But now, let me tell you my story. Let me take you inside a miracle. January 15, 2009 was a Thursday. That week started for me on a Tuesday in Sarasota, Florida. On Wednesday, we worked in a manufacturing plant in Petersburg, Virginia. So later that afternoon, we jumped on a train in Richmond to head to New York because our next day we were going to be in a distribution center in Brooklyn. Now, I don't know if anybody here's ever been or worked inside of a distribution center, but they normally open up quite early in the morning. This went up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So our day started about 5 and we got done about 10. Now, I travel over 100,000 miles a year in what I do in my job, so any chance to get home to my wife and kids a little early, I usually try to take advantage of that. So about 10 o'clock that morning, I called our travel agent and I worked with her, and she put me on flight 1549. I gave up a first class seat at 5 o'clock for seat 15A on 1549. That moment changed the entire direction of my life. But I was grateful. I was getting to go home early. I got to the airport a little early, and the planes were delayed that day because of the weather. It was 11 degrees and snowing. That's no big deal for New York. And I was one of the first set of passengers to board the plane that day because of my status with U.S. Airways. I was a chairman. I was top tier. So I went back to my seat. I'm in seat 15A. There's 4 rows behind the left wing. And I did exactly what I did every single time I got on a plane then. And I hallucinate with juju when you get on a plane now. I went back to my seat. I put my briefcase down, put my wallet in the briefcase, pulled the magazine out, and started to read. I did not listen to the flight crew. I did not know where those exits were. I did not read that little brochure they always tell you to read. But I guarantee you, every single time I get on a plane now, I do. Because now, I know how important it is to be aware on a plane. And after we took off, I don't know if you've ever taken off out of LaGuardia, but you go out over the bay, you start curling up, start heading north, and it was nothing extraordinary about the takeoff. It was about 60 seconds after we took off. So I heard the explosion. It was a loud explosion. Man, I had never heard anything on a plane like that before, so it got my attention. So I looked up and looked out the window, and I saw fire coming out underneath the left wing. So I knew something had happened. I also know planes lose engines. I fly so it's no big deal. But see, that's where I think God's grace entered from the first moment in his flight. Because no one in the plane knew at that moment in time what happened on the left side of the plane also happened on the right side of the plane. And I truly believe they were cross-referenced or checked in. Hey, what'd you see? Hey, what'd you hear? Could have been a lot of panic. People panic, people lose their heads. And when people start to lose their heads, they start making irrational decisions. This day, 10 years later, the one thing that stays with me, and I bet if you talk to any passenger on that plane, they'll tell you the same thing. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The guy next to me elbow, he said, hey man, what's going on? I said, I think we're going back to the airport. I felt banking. I thought I was going back to the airport. As we were banking, I looked out the window and all of a sudden I saw something I've never ever seen before. I saw the skyline of Manhattan up close and personal. Never seen that before. I looked out a little further and all of a sudden I see this bridge coming up. Never seen that before. That's why I started getting some attention. But all of a sudden, as we started approaching the bridge, when I heard the only words I heard the entire time on this plane, when the captain said, this is your captain, brace for impact. Like I mentioned, I wasn't paying attention to instruction. I didn't know what that meant. I know it's serious. Give you a heads up. You ever heard that one on a plane? Make sure you pay attention because something's going down. It's going down fast. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about the George Washington Bridge, but the bridge is 600 feet up. The plane roughly was 1,000 feet and descending at that point. So we only cleared the bridge by about 400 feet. And when I looked out the window down across the bridge, you could see people's faces looking up to you. That's how close we were to the bridge. And as we crossed over the bridge, I did 2 things. First thing I did is I prayed. For whoever that dude is up front, man, just get me down to one piece. I don't want to come back in multiple body parts. At least I want to come back in one body. Second thing I prayed for is the last person I spoke with, who was my client in Brooklyn. I called my wife to tell her that I loved her. And the third thing is I prayed to God to forgive my sins I don't want anything between me and God. I just want to going down. I want to go up, and it's not looking good for me right now. And the second thing I did is I reached down in my briefcase and got my wallet out and shoved it down into my pants. Because if something did happen, which looked like it was probably going to happen, at least they could claim my body. At least they would know who I was. And I put my head down. And people ask me all the time, what was that last moment like? What's it like 1 minute from the time you may die? I'm going to tell people. I heard people making phone calls. I heard people texting. What happened to me is this. I saw the movie of my life pass from my eyes. 3D, 4K. It was amazing. I had such clarity. I saw things from Little League Baseball and high school and dating my first date and when I got married and all, I saw things with clarity. I said, this is what it's about. I saw my life come right before my eyes. It was about 60 seconds after we crossed over the bridge when we crashed into the river. And it was a violent hit. When we hit, I went all the way back in my seat and all the way up my seat just like that. When I came back up, I looked out the window, and I saw light. So I knew I had a shot, but I wasn't out yet. Because if you saw how the plane landed, water started coming in immediately. And depending where you were on that plane, I was towards the back of the plane. Water was anywhere from ankle, knee to waist deep, just like that. Now, you've probably seen that picture you're looking at right now, people standing on the wings. I get a question about that picture all the time. People say, how did those people get out so quickly? I want to tell you how it happened. When I looked up, I looked back into the plane, also I saw people jumping up on top of the seats, climbing over seats to get out of the plane. And I thought that was an amazing moment because that taught me a great lesson about resourcefulness. When in life you think you may only have one way to get something done, all of a sudden if you're resourceful and open your eyes up, multiple choices come out. It's an amazing learning experience. But I didn't think about getting on top of the seat. My game plan was to get to the aisle, get up, and get out. When I got to the aisle, something happened that would change that day for me, but probably change the entire direction of my life. My mom kicked into my head. My mom passed away in 1997. There was something she would tell me when I was a child that popped into my head at that moment, and it was, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you. And the right thing for me was, you take care of other people first. See, I grew up in a small town outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. I played sports and athletics and Boy Scouts, and I was always around a group of guys, and the guys that I hung with always had each other's backs. We never left anybody behind. So I climbed back the seats, going back towards the back of the plane. When I got behind everybody, I was just trying to make out like everybody else, trying to see if anybody needed any help. And at the back of the plane, water was anywhere from about knee level to chest level. And some of those bins had popped over because of the impact, so they have luggage floating in the water, and you're about chest level deep water. So all of a sudden, you're making your way out, and the first light that I saw was on the right side of the plane, 10F. Like, I'm out of here. It's time to go. When I got to that door, it was an amazing sight. There was no room on that wing for me. No room on that boat for me, but it was an amazing sight. People who are being rescued. Now, I don't know who said this, and I give them 100% of the credit when they said that the crew got everybody down that day, and the crew and passengers got everybody out that day, but the real heroes of the day were the first responders. And the first of the first responders was the New York waterways, the ferries. They were there about 2 minutes after this plane crashed. Now, there's a lot of ways to describe a miracle. But having someone there to rescue you after a plane crash in ice cold water in just a couple minutes, that's the start of a miracle. Now, if I went out to the right side of the plane, and there's really two things that really happened on the right side of the plane I want to share with you. First is all the crew went out to the left side of the plane. So the right side of the plane had to be managed and led by passengers with zero technical experience, zero training. And that taught me another great lesson. See, people don't lead projects. People lead people. And people stepped up and led at that moment. They had to lead because there was no one giving directions. Someone had to lead. Second thing is this. I don't think anybody here knows anything about the Hudson River. I've learned a lot about it over the last several years. It's got an extremely fast current. That plane actually floated down the river about a half a mile in 24 minutes. And so as that plane was floating down the river, that lifeboat was floating out from the plane. And they, like I, and probably you, who reads the instructions? No one reads the instructions. It's actually tethered to the plane, but no one knew that. So they kept screaming at me, hold on, hold on, hold on. And that's why I held on to the lifeboat, waist deep in 36-degree water, about 7 minutes. So they had a place to get on the wing. That's why I looked out at the wing and something caught my eye. And there was a lady and she was just standing there. She was frozen. She was in the trance. And you've probably been in that situation in business meetings where you just get to a point where you just don't know what to do. You're locked. And all the training that I've had, I know the way to get people out of that is you got to do something radical to break them out of it. You got to do something really radical. So I started yelling at this lady. And all of a sudden she looks at me like, who's this old man yelling at me? But I got her attention. Somebody from that lifeboat grabbed her arm and helped her on the lifeboat. All of a sudden, you see people walking on a wing. I heard that term, wing walkers. People are actually now walking on a wing. But I'm still in the plane. And a couple minutes later, I felt the plane shift, and I didn't know until later what happened. What happened was a tugboat who was a part of the rescue, as they were packing out, touched the front of the plane. And it shook the plane. When it shook the plane, I felt water go up my back, and the first thing I thought was Titanic. I don't remember that movie. When that boat tipped up, I sucked everything down in it, and my thought was, man, do not be sucked down in a plane. You're almost out of here, man. Don't be sucked down in a plane. So I stopped here, I think, my mom and my dad. Because they had made me get swimming lessons when I was a child. I may never been able to get off this plane. And I thought about that moment a couple years ago. I thought about a time when I was 12 years old when I was in Boy Scouts. I don't know if you've been in Boy Scouts. They have this recognition, it's a word called the Order of the Arrow. It's like when your dad drops you off when you're 12, says, I'll see you in a couple of days. And you're there with a bunch of guys who don't know what's going on. It's like Survivor on steroids. It's a camping and orienteering award. It's where they set you out for 2 days. They give you all these activities, but they also give you this log, and you have to whittle it down while you're doing it. It's a very intense situation. One of the activities we had to do is get across a river. Now, yes, we could have walked down the bank and crossed the bridge, but we're 12 years old. We jump in the river and swim across the river. And I thought, was that the moment when I was 12 years old that was going to give me the certainty to do what I was going to do? Because as soon as I felt that plane shift, I felt water. I was like, I'm out of here. So I jumped in and swam to the closest boat that I could find, had to be the end of that wing. And that was the longest 10-yard swim of my life. Because not only was the water 36 degrees, but you also had jet fuel in the water. And that's why you see me wearing glasses today. Because what happened was when I got back home and went to my optometrist, we found black spots in my eye because it was a little hazy. They think it's jet fuel stuck in my eye. But I got there. Now I'm at the base of the ferry. And if you saw that movie, Sully, you saw the movie, the ladders they rolled down. I didn't have one of those ladders that's already there. The ferries are not there to rescue people. The ferries are there to take you back and forth from Jersey to New York. They're not there to rescue people. Well, mine was a plastic ladder. So when I got there, I got my backside up and they were yelling, climb, climb, climb. I yelled, I can't. I heard my mom talk to me again because the word my mom hated most in life was the word can't. See, if you grew up in our house and you said, I can't to my mom, she said, you can't do it, you're going to do it. I figured out after my mom passed away that her worldview of life was, if you can't, you must. She would not put up with that word. So I got one arm up, I felt somebody grab it. I got the other arm up, I felt somebody grab it. To this day, I do not know who these two gentlemen are, but they pulled me on one of those ferries, threw me over the side. Now I'm sliding on the ice in the ferry. I don't even know what's going on now. Now I'm yelling, get up. And I got to the side of the ferry. I'm like, phew, I made it. But I didn't, because that was my moment. See, one of the groups I love speaking for the most are first responders and firefighters, because they get it. Because especially you see these guys and gals are running into the situation when all stuff's breaking loose. But the next thing you see of them is they're sitting on the curb with their equipment on, and they've got nothing left. They've given it all. I had nothing left. I've been in the water for 7+ minutes, 36-degree water. I had nothing left. But it's amazing where people are in times of a crisis. Because there was a guy in this ferry. He had a gray suit on. He had his laptop over his back, but most importantly, he was dry. But what did he have? He had an iPhone. He came around and put it in my face and call your wife. And I couldn't dial the phone, but I could get the number out. And if iOS 12 is working right now, you're going to hear what was said that day from the ferry as all this was going on.
It's your dad. I was in a plane crash.
That's all I could get out. This is your dad. I've been in a plane crash. And my wife's at home waiting for me to give her a blow-by-blow of her day, because she actually has a real life. She's actually taking our son to basketball practice while all this was going on. So my daughter, who then was a junior in high school, got that message, turned the TV on, and communicated this to my family. That's how my family found out, because I got to leave a voicemail. Now, I'm sure some of you may have not ever been in New York or New Jersey. I'll give you a little geography lessons. I love giving geography lessons. If you look at the way the plane's situated, and you saw the movie, this movie had it accurate. The left side of the plane is facing towards Manhattan. The right side of the plane is facing towards New Jersey. Since I went out the right side of the plane, I'm heading to New Jersey, because 5 years ago, one of the things I had the opportunity to do is speak with one of the people who wrote the plan for maritime rescues in the Hudson. He and I spoke in New Orleans. And I learned a lot of things that day, but one of the things I learned was pretty basic. Wherever the closest point to shore you were is where are you going to go? So since I went out the right, I'm going to New Jersey. And I found out later they radioed ahead because they knew that I'd been in the water. So when we hit shore, there were 3 people waiting for me. There were 2 EMTs and a guy from the American Red Cross with a blanket. And that's why I'm now a national spokesperson for the American Red Cross. Because a little known factor about that day, which you would not get in the media, this is bonus information. There were a lot of groups that touched a lot of people that day. But there were two groups that touched every one of us. The ferries, the waterways, and the Red Cross on both the New York and New Jersey side. I couldn't walk. So they picked me up and carried me to a triage center. Now, a triage center is a room with nothing in it. There's nothing special about a triage center. They put me next to the wall, stripped all my clothes off down to my skivvies, and Heather, my EMT, says, I'll be right back. So now I'm in the floor of my underwear. I don't know what's going on now. I look over here, and this guy is sore like I am. I look over here, and this girl didn't have any underwear on. It's amazing when you're on the floor naked with two people. Everybody's looking. There's nobody talking, though. It's a very weird feeling. I was just in the water now. I'm naked with two people on the floor. What's going on now? And all of a sudden, I look up. I see this gentleman walking towards me. He had a card in his hand. He said, sir, I need your name. I need your date of birth. He writes it on the card, puts it around my right ankle. He walks away. Now, I don't know when y'all grew up. I grew up in the 70s. There was a TV show called MASH. When they tagged your toe, they're carding you out. It's game over, man. You didn't make it. You're going to the big casino in the sky. That's exactly what I thought. Because I was on the floor, I was naked, I was ice cold, I could barely breathe, and I had a tag on my foot. I must be dead. I said, that movie Ghost. It's true. It's true. I'm just watching myself die. I'm already dead. All of a sudden, Heather comes back and says, I got to take your blood pressure. I said, good blood pressure. We like blood pressure. Unfortunately, mine was 190 over 120. And she goes, you got to go stat. Now, when they say stat, they're going to take you someplace. She goes, you got to go stat. You got to have a heart attack or stroke. You got to go right now. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I survived a plane crash. I got out of the water. And now I'm going to die of a heart attack or stroke. Man, it just keeps coming. But he put me on this gurney and started wheeling me out. You got to remember, New York, rush hour, plane crash, media, wall to wall, unbelievable, every place. And they're taking me down to the ambulance, but there was a guy from NBC with a camera on his shoulder who had a story. So he starts following us. They're putting me in the ambulance. He's jumping in. They're pushing him out. He's jumping in. They're pushing him out. There's chaos in the ambulance. They finally close the door and take me to a place called Palisades Medical Center. Now, I don't know if anybody here is from New Jersey. My New Jersey friends get a bad rap. There's one thing about people in New Jersey, they know how to respond. All of a sudden, like these 20 or 30 people are there just waiting for me. All of a sudden, they open up these doors, and all of a sudden, these 10 women come running up with blankets. I didn't know why they did that till later. I found out later because all of the stuff was going on at the triage center. The gurney got stuck. We couldn't get it out. So these 10 women picked me up in blankets, carried me to this bed where there was a doctor. And now it is go time because now the doctor's taking over. The doctor yells out, blood pressure, and take it again. 190 over 120. That wasn't good because Heather said I could die of a heart attack or stroke. That's not good. They yelled out oxygen. They yelled out 75. I didn't know what that meant. I found out later, that's not good. Then he yelled out temperature. I took it orally, it was 96. Then he yells out anally, and all of a sudden I got that one. I know exactly what that means. My mom did that. I know exactly what's coming. And I have no control over this situation. And Nurse Bautista, who's my angel, she stayed with me the entire night. It's on my right arm. She goes, I can't get him off. I can't get him off. Because what happened, my body was so cold and so wet, the underwear froze to my hips. They were frozen. So nurses always have these scissors. She goes, clip, clip, rip. And all I got left in this entire world was my watch. Because my temperature was 94. And I had hypothermia. And it took them 5 hours to warm my body up. That's how cold my body was. 5 hours. That was an amazing 5 hours. Because not only did I get to meet the former governor of New Jersey, the head of Port Authority, New York State Police, New Jersey State Police, Homeland Security, FBI. You want to talk to me? And the gentleman was on my left. He was the first passenger out. If you saw the movie, and he jumped out, the guy would start swimming towards New York. That was him. He fractured his sternum. The reason he wanted to talk to us is this. Once again, this is a low-known fact, but you will not get in the media. This is bonus information. Out of 150 passengers, not crew, passengers, 21 people went to the hospital. 18 went over to the city hospitals in New York, Beth Israel, and Columbia. 3 of us went to Palisades over in Jersey. Out of those 21 people, 2 people stayed the night, Barry and I. 148 people walked home just a couple hours after a plane crash in ice cold water. If you saw the movie, it's accurate. People kept saying, what's the number? What's the number? They always asked because they couldn't get the number because everybody started going home. That's why about 7 o'clock that night, if you go back, it's when the governor of New York came out and says, this is truly a miracle on the Hudson. That's how it got its name. They couldn't find those people. But the authorities could find us, and they had questions. And one of the questions I got was, do you think this was a terrorist attack? You have planes going towards bridges towards New York. Somebody has to answer some questions. And we were the ones to answer questions because the movie had it accurate. The crew was locked down at the Courtyard Marriott LaGuardia. No one got to the crew that night. But we were getting questions like this all night long. All night long, I kept telling the doctor, I had no clothes. I had no clothes. The doctor kept saying, well, why need clothes? You're in a hospital. See, I did not know you did not need clothes in a hospital. Obviously I was hallucinating. I thought you needed clothes. But what he didn't know is this. Not only did all the authorities know where we were at, all the media knew where we were at. We agreed to do Good Morning America, the early show, Fox and Friends, and all I had to wear was my watch. So somebody from the American Red Cross Northern New Jersey chapter went out and got some really ugly sweats for me to wear that next day. And if you go back and watch those videos, you'll see that. But that told me something. Somebody cared. See, I don't know if anybody here has ever been in a situation when you have nothing. I'm talking you have no food, you have no money, you have no clothes, you have no friends. You have nothing. And somebody gets you a stitch of clothing. Now all of a sudden becomes really important, really important. And we're seeing right now some of the things that are going on around this world. Now when something like this happens, I hope you never go through it, but unfortunately the last couple of years we've had a couple of situations. Every airline has its own emergency response team, as did U.S. Airways. Each one of us got our own person, our own liaison. Mine was Doreen from Pittsburgh. And Doreen had one job, anything that Dave wanted, take care of Dave. That's all she had to do. She got there about midnight that night. I finally got to talk to my wife because I didn't have a phone. I finally got to talk to my wife, and she was putting together plans. It was a little chaotic in the hospital. Yeah, I just got to remember, it was just amazing. But the next morning when Barry and I go down to do all these TV shows, she's making plans to get me back home to Charlotte, North Carolina. So when I get done with these shows, I feel pretty good. I was like, let's go. I want to go. She goes, listen, I don't want any more stress on you. I'm going to put you on the 12 o'clock flight home. I said, no, I want to go home now. She goes, you don't understand. I can't get you there. I said, no, you don't understand. So my wife and kids are at the airport. They're probably freaking out. I want to go home now. She goes, no, you don't understand. She said, you are in Weehawken, New Jersey. You're going out of LaGuardia. It's almost 9 o'clock. That flight leaves at 10. I can't get you there. So the night before I told you, all these authorities want to be my friends. They all left their cars and said, call me if you need anything. And I cashed in. I'm going to tell you right now who the most important person in New York is. The Director of Port Authority. Gave his card to her and said, call him. He said he'd help me. She looked at me and said, you want me to call? I said, call him. He said he'd help me. She told me there, I thought you were melting down on me. So she got big-eyed on me, right? So she walks out the door, calls the Director of Port Authority. 6 minutes later, I had a police escort. They take me from Weehawken, New Jersey to LaGuardia in 16 minutes in a pimped-out Escalade, me and my hoodie. They'll tell you that is a miracle. Listen, if you ever have the chance to take a police escort through Manhattan, take it. There's nothing like it. January 15th this year, the 10th anniversary, I was in New Jersey. 2 hours to get across the bridge. Amazing. You just can't get from New Jersey to New York. But they were coaching me the whole way because there's media now, right? So I do one quick interview, but I just want to go home. So I go up, like, I had nothing to check. Let's go. We all forgot one critical detail. Me too. I didn't have an ID. How am I going to get through security without an ID? Worked once. Homeland Security guy's card to TSA. Played it. The guy looks at me and says, sir, why do I want to call the Director of New Jersey Homeland Security? I said, he knows who I am. Please call him. And he did. The guy got through LaGuardia Security, TSA, without an ID. They'll tell you that's a miracle. Go over here to LAX and try it. There's nobody playing games right now, right? No one's playing games. But all of a sudden, they give me something I had never got in my life. This thing called an entourage. I've never had an entourage. Like 20 people show up. And all of a sudden, they're walking me down to the gate. Pretty cool. Never had that. And all of a sudden, there's a little commotion out there, but they walked me right on the plane. They sit me down in first class. So this is definitely an improvement, upgrade. All of a sudden, Doreen's over there talking to Beth, the flight attendant. But all of a sudden, the captain and the first officer walk out. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, we deboarded the plane. I said, why? We wanted to talk to you. We've never talked to anybody who survived a plane crash. So while they're holding everybody up, we're having a one-on-one interview in first class. They're firing questions at me, but what they weren't expecting is this. I had questions for them. Like, are you going to get me over this bridge? Are you going to get me home? And the captain looked at me and said, sir, I will get you home safely. What I will do for you is this. When we hit 3,000 feet, man, that was the first time I heard that one. I hadn't heard we only got 3,000 feet. I'll ring the bell, and you and I will sort of know where this happened yesterday. So you put back in coach. I did not get first class. Got free potato chips, free Cokes. Left the middle seat open for me. So I put the hoodie up like the Unabomber and lock it down. It's like, get me out of here. Just get me out of here. And all of a sudden I hear us take off. I hear ding, ding, ding. I look out the window like, whoa. 3,000 feet isn't that high up. And that was the moment. And all this started coming back to me. I started realizing the magnitude of what happened that day. It was an unbelievable feeling. Now we're on our way back to Charlotte. I haven't talked to anybody but Beth, the flight attendant. And about the Greensboro area, that's when they make the final call. I used to fly it all the time, so I know that sort of geography. They make the final call. So after they make the final call, the guy 2 seats over from me, it was on page 4 of Newsday. And what is on page 4 of Newsday? A picture of me. He looks at me and said, hey, were you that guy on that plane? I'm like, what? So he turns and he shows me the picture. I'm like, whoa, my picture's in the paper. He goes, you were the guy on the plane, right? He said, loud enough, so everybody gets up with the freak show and the hoodie in the back, right? Who's the guy? Who's the guy? And they're up, and we're on final descent. And the last time we were on final descent, it really didn't work out well for me. And all of a sudden, they got, get down. And Beth, the flight attendant, comes up and said, are you okay? I'm like, just get me off this plane last. Just get me off this plane last. So when we land, Beth runs up. No one gets by Beth. She's a stud. No one gets by Beth. Just keep going. She takes me off the plane last, and yes, my family was there, and U.S. Airways was there. It was also the chief executive officer of the American Red Cross that was there with my family. And that was the most important thing. Someone was taking care of my family. Now, there was chaos with the media in Charlotte now. So they put us in the old U.S. Airways Club so they could brief me on what was going on. So we walk out and we get to the escalator to go down to my car, wall-to-wall media. I knew this was coming, but my family wasn't ready for it. So my son, who was in second grade at that point, sort of had a little bit out of sorts. My wife, they took her the other way out. And I did a couple quick interviews, but my daughters and I went home, and I'm grateful. I made it. I finally made it home. God shined on me. But that's where my miracle turns into my mission. And I want to share with you now how does a miracle turn into somebody's mission and how that mission is realized. The Sunday after the plane crash, I went to my church. Now that Sunday, everybody wanted to talk to me. But there was one guy who really wanted to talk to me. He was in charge of men's breakfast. He came up to me and said, Dave, will you speak at men's breakfast next Sunday? I said, no problem, man. 50 old guys eating pancakes? Got it. Walk in the park. I didn't know they invited half of Charlotte. 500-600 people show up, and they ran out pancakes. They have hungry, angry Methodists on my hands. And, if you're a Methodist, you understand. You won't be over the Presbyterians and Baptists, Episcopalians. You can run out of food. If you're a Methodist, you better have food. So I have hungry, angry Methodist on my hands. So I go behind the curtain and said, God, give me something to say, man. Give it to me now. Deliver. And he gave me something to say. I get done speaking. 2 men wanted to talk to me. One was from Bank of America, one was from Wells Fargo. That's no big deal. They have people on the plane. That's no big deal. All of a sudden, I look up and look in the back of the room. See this elderly lady looking at me, just staring right at me, and she catches my eye. All of a sudden, she starts walking up over here and takes a hard left. Comes up and interrupts this conversation, interrupts and walks into it and grabs my arm and grabs my side. Like, whoa, what's she doing? But she looked me in the eye and said something that only changed that day for me, changed the entire direction of my life. That moment mattered. She looked me in the eye and said, I was questioning if there is a God. I don't believe in miracles. But you're physical evidence that there's a God. And he does miracles. Thank you. Thank you. Let my arm go, look me in the eye one more time. Just walked away. I look at these 2 men. They're crying. I've never seen 2 men physically cry like this in my life. My minister in the back and witnessed all this. I'm looking at him like, what's going on? But then it came to me. What happened to me on January 15, 2009, and now impacted somebody. Before she goes to her grave beyond whatever that is. Now I believe there is a God who does miracles because I'm physical evidence. So now when I was invited to be here today with you around the world, there was no doubt that I was going to be here today with you because I don't know who I'm going to impact. If you go back to 2009, there wasn't a lot of positive things happening in this country. But all of a sudden you had a crew and passengers that did something that had never been done in the history of aviation. One team, one goal, one miracle. And it gave people hope. There's a passage in the Bible that says suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us. That's what only happened that day. That's what I get to do every single day. That's what all these speakers you go hear from do every single day. We give people hope. That's why we're here. This is what we're doing, what we're doing. But one thing I've learned throughout my life is this. Success leaves clues. And I want to end up and share with you just 4 or 5 lessons that I learned that day that you can take away. So if you face that challenging time, that next time you have to face something, hopefully you can call on this, be able to stand up and step up and get it done. First thing is this process saves lives. Now, that might be your physical life like it saved my life. It might be financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. But if you don't have a game plan for each one of these areas of your life, if you don't stick to it, it could cost you a lot. I know. I've done this financially. I've done this with my health. Process saves lives. Second thing is this, casualness leads to casualties. Once again, it may not be physically, it might be financially, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. You may just go casual with relationships, and all of a sudden you waste a relationship. And this really came home to me earlier this year when I had the honor and privilege of speaking and keynoting at NASA down in Cape Kennedy. I keynoted at NASA, one of the biggest experiences of my life. And I got done, and one of the things I got to do is speak with a rocket scientist who was on the Columbia Space Shuttle, team. He took me behind the scenes. I got to see the remains of Columbia. A very cool experience. But one of the things we talked about is this. We talked about this point. He said, you know what? He said, if Apollo 1 didn't happen, that's when the 3 astronauts perished. He said, we may never got to the moon. I said, why? He goes, we were taking things too casual. Everything was going so well. And we missed some steps. He said, we did the same thing on Columbia. We missed some steps. He said, you cannot be casual. I said, all of a sudden, casualness can lead to casualties. Third thing is this. People of value That's what you see through this whole thing. You see people's character step up because people who have value those others. If you saw the movie, you saw that one line from the ferry captain. It's true. It said that. No one dies today because we all value people's lives. I think you just look at Jesus from a human perspective. What did Jesus value most in life? It's the relationship with people. He didn't hang out with the cool kids. He hung out with people just so he could have that relationship. People value people. Fourth, the power of teamwork. How does 155 people who don't care about each other or know each other do something that had never been done in the history of aviation in 6 minutes? 2 key things. Number one, you check your egos at the door. It don't matter if you're the CEO of Exxon or you're the guy taking out trash at midnight. When you're going down in a plane crash, everybody's the same. Leaders check their egos at the door. Second thing is, like I said earlier, leaders lead people. When given the opportunity to lead. I learned that when I had the opportunity to escort a guy by the name of General Norman Schwarzkopf. He told me that. He said, when given the opportunity to lead, you lead. People's leadership stepped up because you had to. Someone had to take control. Power of teamwork. People checking their egos at the door and leaders stepped up. And last but not least is this. Grace is fueled by gratitude. What is gratitude? Gratitude is giving thanks to something bigger than yourself. See, people ask me all the time, do you really think this was a miracle? I say, I don't know. I've never been involved with a miracle before, but what I do know is this. When things are impossible with men and women, things are possible with your Creator. And if you have gratitude, you get more grace. If you have more grace, the better the odds are. That's how miracles occur. Remember those 5 things. Hope you'll walk away today and remember how you employ your personal leadership skills and you have that opportunity to step up. You remember and employ them. And I'll end with this, just a little story. For over 1,000 years, there was a people on the land with nothing. All of a sudden, a leader stepped up and came into that land and took them to a land of just enough. And for 40 years, they stayed in this land of just enough until other leaders stepped up who started believing in leadership and stepping up and leading people and moving the land of just enough to a land of more than enough. My goal for you today is this, that you take whatever your leadership skills are and take people and impact people, take them from a land of just enough to a land of more than enough. That's when true leaders step up. That's when your personal leadership skills and servant leadership comes into play. I want to say thank you for your time today. I'll leave you with one last statement. All the moments in your life happen for a reason and a purpose, and they do serve you. Because all the moments in your life really do matter. May God bless you. Thank you very much for having me today. Thank you very much.